London, thank you very much for not only last night being one of the hottest crowds I have seen in recent memory, but you guys seemingly have got us a WrestleMania. So again, thank you for that. Hello and welcome to FTTR. I am Hugh McQuaid and today we are talking about Money in the Bank 2023, the WWE Premium Live event emanating from the UK. But before we dive into that, please hit subscribe, please like this video, please comment your thoughts down below on Money in the Bank as we dive into my review where I tell you everything, every angle, every match, everything that happened throughout the show as a good review does. So Money in the Bank has been and gone, and this was a show of, I would say, ups and downs and ups and downs. I think it was a very sort of uneven night for me. I don't think it was a blow away fantastic pay-per-view. It was a solid show with some incredible moments. That is how I would put Money in the Bank in a nutshell. But we're going to dive into this. We're going to dive in with the first match of the night, which was the men's Money in the Bank ladder match. You had Butch taking on Shinsuke Nakamura, taking on Santos Escobar, taking on Damian Priest, taking on Ricochet, taking on LA Knight, taking on Logan Paul. This match I thought was really good. I didn't think this was one of my favourite Money in the Bank ladder matches in recent memory, but there was some incredibly brutal, nasty stuff in here. And I think the people who really got the spotlight and the chance to shine in this match were Logan Paul, Damian Priest, and to an extent I think Shinsuke Nakamura got a lot in this. But the elephant in the room that we need to talk about is LA Knight, because at least for me, for the first first 2/3 of this match, LA Knight was the one taking the majority of the moves. The sort of only thing he got in that is sort of memorable is the back suplex off the ladder that I think he did to Santos Escobar. But he was the most over man in this entire match. He was getting nuclear babyface reactions anytime he would step into the ring, slide into the ring, square off with someone. LA Knight was the most over man in the entire match, and I think that hurt the finish a little bit. But before I get to that, some of the spots that were really, really sick: Logan Paul doing his frog splash through a ladder on Damian Priest looked like it absolutely sucked. It absolutely sucked. Looked like he just splat. There was no giving that ladder whatsoever. I thought that was really nice. And then you had the insanely scary Spanish fly off the ladder through a table from Logan Paul and Ricochet, which was so close to being a disaster, but they recovered it quite well. I mean, Logan did look like he smacked his head, which was quite scary. But that's going to be the spot of the night. That's the spot of the match that everyone will be talking about, going forward, because it was the highlight of the match, essentially. It was the big spot of the match, the big Money in the Bank spot for the men's match. And then you had the ending where LA Knight ran wild, and I was like, okay, we've not done anything with LA Knight because he's going to win. He's going to win. Logan Paul's on the outside. He's been taken out by the Spanish fly. LA Knight comes in. He hits Nakamura with something. He hits Pete Dunne with something. He hits, I think, Priest with something, and he looks like he's going to win. He's climbing up the ladder, but he's thrown off by Damian Priest, and Damian Priest is the man who wins Money in the Bank. I don't think this is a botch necessarily. I don't think this is, terrible. I just think out of the people in this match, I think Priest was one of the least interesting to me for winning Money in the Bank. I think Logan Paul, I think LA Knight, I think, even Ricochet, to me, are more interesting picks than Damian Priest, because Damian Priest doesn't feel like he needs Money in the Bank necessarily. And I'll get to it when I talk about the Seth match. I have some big trepidations about Priest holding that Money in the Bank that I will dive into there. I don't think he's a bad choice, but I think there's a better way to do it with Priest that they're not doing, in my opinion. But this was a really fun Money in the Bank ladder match and set the show off to a hot start. Next up, we got Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler taking on Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez. My bad. For the WWE Women's Tag Team titles. This was a pretty filler match. You got some nice stuff in there. You got some repeats from last Money in the Bank when you had Morgan and Ronda Rousey squaring off, and Morgan tried to roll up Rousey in the same way that she did at Money in the Bank. You had the neat powerbomb that Rodriguez and Liv Morgan do, where she yeets her out of the ring. And then from out of nowhere, Shayna Baszler just turns on Ronda Rousey. Like, just turns on her from out of nowhere. They've just won these belts. They've just unified these belts, beating Isla Dawn and Alba Fire, and then they lost because Liv hit Rousey with the Oblivion, and they are the new champions. Okay, seems like we're doing that. I mean, I'm really into Shayna Baszler versus Ronda Rousey. I think that could be really fun. But I don't know if the booking, very weird. Why have them win the belts? Why not just give Alba Fire and Isla Dawn something, and then that could fuel the breakup? But no, it was weird. It was a weird ass heel turn, and the match was just okay. It was okay. I have nothing more to say about it other than it was a weird ass heel turn. Next up, we got Gunther defending his Intercontinental Championship against Matt Riddle in a really fun match. I thought this was not Gunther's best. Obviously, these two have had wars in progress over the Atlas Championship, and they are bangers. This didn't necessarily live up to those, but I think this was just a really technical, really methodical match by the ring general, essentially, because he was working over the injured ankle of Matt Riddle, and that's how he picked up the win with a leg lock. Riddle got some flurries of offense in there, like a few knees, a few kicks, but he would just fall victim to the chops of Gunther, and Gunther looked incredible. I love watching Gunther wrestle. He's one of the best wrestlers in the world, and the way he flails about and sells the power of his moves, I really, really love. But yeah, Gunther won, because of course he did, with a sort of heel hook leg lock on Riddle on the injured ankle, and Riddle had to tap out. I think it was good, solid match. What came after was the return of Drew McIntyre. There he is. Where is he? No. There. I might cut that out. But Drew McIntyre came back. Stared down with Gunther, hit Glasgow's Kiss and a Claymore, and seemingly we have the new challenger for Gunther for the Intercontinental Championship. Really good return. Really nice to see him back. And yeah, this should be a big, meaty feud for the Intercontinental Championship, and I'm looking forward to it. Next up, we got Cody Rhodes taking on Dominic Mysterio, accompanied to the ring by Rhea Ripley. This was, I think, what everyone expected it would be. Dom just running away from Cody, landing the cheap shots, Rhea interference. Dom gets a little bit of the upper hand, but Cody ultimately wins with a Cody Cutter and a Crossroads. This was pretty inconsequential. This didn't really add anything. Might fuel the Judgment Day split that is seemingly coming. But yeah, there's really nothing, no Brock in this. It was just a clean win for Cody Rhodes on his quest to defeat Roman Reigns. We'll see about that now. But yeah, I don't really know what else to say about this. It was fun shenanigans, and Dom is a great heel. That's it. And then, from out of nowhere, out comes John Cena, of all people, and mega reaction for the guy. Everyone's singing along to his theme song. Like I said in the ring, it made a change. And he comes down and cuts a promo about how he wants to get WrestleMania in England, in London. And this was just wild and out of nowhere that we would even entertain the possibility of doing a WrestleMania here in the UK. And yeah, he just sets up the idea that we're going to be getting WrestleMania in London, apparently. And I've checked, they've not announced the 2025 location for WrestleMania. So seemingly he set up that it's going to be in London. He had a bit of a shtick with Grayson Waller. Grayson Waller comes out, gets some heat. It's called Wanker. And Cena hits him with an AA. steps, and that's it. WrestleMania in London. Now, I can't help but be the cynical person in the room and say that they're probably only doing this because of what AEW's done with All In Wembley. Nearly sold that bastard out. But it'd be fun. I'd like to see that. I'd like to see WrestleMania in London. I think that'd be cool. Really monumental moment. Whether it happens, again, they could have just had Cena go out there, do that, but WrestleMania in London, apparently happening. Next match we got was the women's Money in the Bank ladder match, as we have Bayley taking on Zoe Stark, taking on Trish Stratus, taking on Becky Lynch, taking on Zelina Vega, taking on Io Sky. This match was a bit of a mess, in my opinion. Nothing seemed to flow particularly well in here, and it seemed that anytime they would go for a cool spot, it never turned out as cool as they wanted it to. So the main example of that stuck out to me was when Trish did what looked like a really cool, she did a head scissors off the ladder to Becky, and Becky just sort of flailed around and just stood up in the corner. I didn't think that looked particularly clean and crisp. I think the MVP of this match was Io Sky, the eventual winner, because she's awesome. She does all the high spots, she does all the springboards. She was the one who was hitting these insane moves, and I think Zoe Stark really looked good in this. I think it was a good showcase for Zoe Stark, being the big muscle for Trish Stratus. And yeah, there was this whole section in the middle where it was just Becky, Trish and Zoe battling by the announce table, and Becky hit a really clunky looking manhandle slam onto a ladder bridge on Trish. I thought that was nice, and I think that was played into the finish because Trish and Zoe handcuffed Becky, which this, honestly, right, okay, code red off the ladder from Zelina Vega, looked gnarly, looked nasty, but this was one of the most creative and inventive finishes I think I've ever seen in a ladder match, and is going to be what sticks with me for this, because I fucking loved the finish of this. So Io Sky, Bayley and Becky are all battling it out on the ladder, and Becky's still got the handcuff on. She's got one thingy of the handcuff round her wrist, and Io Sky pulls Bayley's arm through, handcuffs Bayley to Becky, so they're both stuck, they're both on like the middle of the ladder and they can't get through, and Io climbs over Bayley and unhooks the briefcase. Picture perfect finish. Whoever came up with that is a goddamn genius, because I think it's one of the best ladder match finishes of all time. And yeah, I think it elevated the match, the finish did, because it was that damn good. And Io Sky's missed Money in the Bank. I think that's awesome. It's seemingly setting up probably Asuka, but I'd be interested in her cashing in on Rhea Ripley as well. I'm interested in both elements of the women's side on who she should cash in on, more so than I am with Priest in the men's, because I feel like Priest is definitely going to cash in for the World Heavyweight Championship. But I like that there's more options with Io Sky and the Money in the Bank briefcase. Clunky match with an amazing finish. So yeah, this really put it on a high for me. Speaking of finishes, we then had a bad finish in this match. Finn Balor took on Seth Rollins for the World Heavyweight Championship. I thought this match was pretty good. I thought it was fun. I like that Finn was targeting the ribs. He was working over the ribs with a big foot stomp at the beginning of the match, some good chain wrestling at the beginning, and it just sort of picked up from there with Finn really targeting the ribs of Rollins, and Rollins doing typical Rollins and not really selling the ribs when he has to. So yeah, sorry about that dig. But yeah, it was a lot of foot stomps, a lot of coup de grace, a lot of kicks in the corner. And what happened at the end, so Priest comes down, his music doesn't hit, he just walks down with the briefcase and he's staring down Rollins. He sits, gets a chair, sits by the announce desk and just watches on at the match. And Balor gets a spree. He hits loads of coup de grace on Rollins on the outside, rolls Rollins back in, climbs the turnbuckle, and it's at that point Damian Priest gets up as though he's going to cash in, and that distracts Finn, misses the coup de grace, stomp from Seth, 1, 2, 3. It was a bad finish. Really bad. I get that they're trying to sow seeds of dissension within the Judgment Day, but this did not work. This made Finn look like an idiot because it just made him look like an idiot. It made Priest look like a bit of an idiot as well because he didn't fail, but why would he do that? Like, why? There's no logic behind him doing that and seizing that opportunity at that point. If anything, he would wait until Finn's hit the coup de grace. It made little to no sense. I think the better way to do it, if you're going to have Priest with the Money in the Bank briefcase, I think the best way to do it is have Finn win. Have Finn win, and then you have someone with the Money in the Bank briefcase in the faction and the world champion being constantly on edge. I think that's such a better way to sow seeds of dissension within the Judgment Day. And I think that'd be a way more interesting story than anything they've got going on with Seth at the moment. So yeah, underwhelmed. It was a fun match, but I was pretty underwhelmed by the finish of this one. Then we had Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn cutting a promo about the main event, how Sami's watching on, eagle-eyed to see the result of this one. And then we had the main event, Bloodline Civil War, as Solo Sikoa and Roman Reigns took on the Usos. This was, like all Roman matches, it's very slow at the beginning. It takes a lot of time for you to get engaged, get involved. But when it does and it flips that switch, it becomes the best thing of all time. That's why I can never fully love and never fully critique Roman matches, because I think the beginnings are usually quite tedious, but when they get into that high gear at the end with all the drama, all the emotional stuff, they become masterpieces. So it's a very weird thing, me and Roman matches, but it started off with a lot of, beating down of Jimmy, beating down of Jay, and then eventually building up. Great UK crowd as well. If you hate Roman, stand up. I think that was great. And then it just escalated. When Jay got the hot tag, it just went into another gear. Super kicks all over the place. Solo puts himself through a table by accident. You had a ref bump. Another ref bump, which is a trope I am tired of in Roman matches. But you had a ref bump. You had a great near fall when Roman hit a spear spike combo and tried to stack both Usos, and they kicked out at 2. Incredible near fall. I would have liked it if they kicked out at 1. A little bit of Kenny Omega flair in there from the Will Ospreay match. But that was really, really great. And then Solo takes Jimmy to the outside. Looks like he's going to put him through the table. Misses. Goes through the table himself. Roman's in a stunned silence. And you get this great showdown with Jay and Roman with a super kick into a Superman punch, into a super kick, into a spear for another great near fall. And then the Usos, because they have the advantage now, they get the upper hand. Super kick, splash from Jay. 1, 2, 3. Roman Reigns takes his first pinfall loss in 3 years to Jay Uso. Monumental. Absolutely monumental stuff here. And I don't know how to feel about it. The only way I feel about it is we have to be getting Jay Roman at SummerSlam. It looks like it has to be that match for the championships. And I think Jay has to win, because I don't think you can sell it as, it's a chink in Roman's armour, he's taken this pinfall loss. I think this has to be the downfall. And I don't think you can. I think having Roman win at SummerSlam undermines this. That's just my opinion. And we'll have to see where it goes. But it was a phenomenal finish. Really cathartic win for the Usos. And yeah, we'll have to see where this story goes. I think it's really good. They've managed to heat it back up just enough for me, the Bloodline story. But it has to be coming to an end soon. Has to be. It has to be. And that closed off the show. I think, like I said at the beginning, pretty uneven. But I think the highs were really high and the lows weren't low, that I'd ended up hating this show. I would give this about 3.5 out of 5. I don't think it's one of the best shows of the year. And the crowd were amazing throughout. 3.5 out of 5. But I want to know what you guys think down in the comments below. Did you love this show? Did you hate the show? Let me know everything you want about it down in the comments below, and I'll try and reply to every single one of you. Thank you all ever so much for your support, and have a nice day.